We will now begin the second half of tonight's meeting and welcome our third speaker, Paula P. from Illinois, who will be sharing her experience with the 12th step from the AA perspective.
Thank you so much. Hey everybody, I'm Paula Parton. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to see you all. Some are friends, some I haven't met yet. It's good to see all of you anyway. Ali chose this step for me. I said, you decide, and here's what he chose. I don't know what that meant, but hope it's good news. I'm going to take it as good news anyway. I also wish that I could not see the people who come and go because I take both of them personally. So, you know. Thanks, Laura. It's good to see you. Thanks to the Amy as well. She and I haven't been together yet, and it always surprises me. So it's nice to get to hear her. So I'm here to talk about the 12th step, and which, wow, I mean, the longer I'm sober, the broader the 12th step becomes. And before I jump into this, and so I don't forget, I want to say that the most important day in my life is the day I got sober, and that was on October 29th, 1979. And a lot of the reason that that's my sobriety date is because of other people working their 12th step. And I don't just mean carrying the message of here's how you get sober, here's my experience and strength and hope, here I'll take you to the meeting. It was them carrying the message of kindness in and out of the rooms. It was them having this safe space that I didn't even know the word safe or what that meant or felt like, but I just knew there was something in these rooms, something different, and I could stay for that. And I've had examples of people's extraordinary works of service and sacrifice before I even ever took my first drink. And I mean, if I had a mantra of my sobriety, a saying or whatever that is, I would say, you never know, man. You never know what little thing could change everything. In and out of the rooms. I mean, in and out of AA. I get a big life in AA, and I got a big life outside of AA too. I'm a citizen in my city, and I'm a citizen in Alcoholics Anonymous too. And I'm a proud member of my home group, and happy to carry service anywhere I go in any way, man. I mean, I think it's at toward of the maybe the end of the rush, but conferences spent the last year or so trying to catch up to the years that they missed, you know what I mean? And so it was like this rush of fitting stuff in, and for the past couple ones I've been at in the past month or so, two or three or four people have come up to me that I didn't know and said, how do you be a speaker? And inside I'm going, oh no. And then, but what I always say now is, why do you ask? So, you know, they're telling me that, you know, whatever, they think they'd be good or whatever. And what I say is the freaking truth. The most important service we can do in Alcoholics Anonymous is keep the lights on in a meeting and keep the coffee brewing and be a freaking happy greeter. Best service work there is, most valuable, most spiritual, most basic, most important. And I mean, I was one of those juvie drunks, you know what I mean? A little alcoholic and other outside issues running the streets and in court, in and out of court all the time, in institutions. You know, my mom had just gotten sober and she wanted to try to make good on me, her fifth, you know, of 5 unwanted children. But I'd found that magic liquid God, man, and there was no coming back from that for me. And I was willing to die for it. Happy actually to die for it. And I was mandated to go to AA meetings since I was 14 years old. And I was never all the way sober in those first 3 years of going to meetings till I got sober at 17. But I mean, the most astounding work, miraculous service work I've ever seen happened in the first meeting I ever attended. And it's like I'm standing there now, man. I was 14 years old, coming to my first meeting in a tiny little town, Grand Island, Nebraska. Oh my God, you drink too. And I knew all those people loved my mom, and I knew this, they knew the stuff I was doing to her, you know, so I was, you know, shouldering back, ready for them to come for me. And I walked down the steps of that tiny little place and standing at the bottom of the steps, and I'm looking across the room, and the big Pumbaa, you know, of AA and that little community was there. And I knew he'd really be coming for me. I'll never forget it, man. He was bending down, and he sat up, and he turned up, and he turned his head, and he saw me, and he smiled. And he crossed that entire room with his hand out to greet me, like I was a person or something. And those 15 seconds of that man showing the superhuman, extraordinary strength and love is the reason I'm your speaker tonight. So many acts of humility and grace. And, you know, there's promises in almost every step in the big book. People always read the 9th step promises, but I mean, the 5th step promises are my most favorite ones. I know I'm not on step 5, but here's the 12 step promises. Here you go. Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. And I've had many places to come through the 12th step, and there's a sacred space between every step, including between 12 and the coming back through at 1, because now I'm at 12, almost 44 years sober, many times circling through the steps. I've learned new things to lift up to the light. And as my friend Marty said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And what do I have to do? Bring it back to 1. What's the new defect that I've discovered? Bring it back to 1, because I am powerless. 100%. So true, Lori. First acquisition in anything, I am powerless. And my first one, I had to realize that was rage, man. I thought I could 4th step that thing away. I couldn't. It wasn't a matter of that. It was a matter of starting at the 1st step. Powerless, which means there's only one power who could do anything about that. And so I go. And that's the beauty of getting to do these steps, you know, of getting to do them over and over and seeing new things and having new experiences and being able to share these things with other people. And I mean, just being aware to the lessons. I mean, I'm curious, stay curious. And there was this one woman, my first like Al-Anon friend, and she was the mother actually of my best friend, and just this amazing woman, an artist, and her husband was a carpenter, and that's how they both made their living. And so, you know, of course, worked out of their homes, and all his tools were in his home, and you know, all of her studio was in her home. And he was in his 60s, and he decided that paying for house insurance was frivolous. It was ridiculous. He then never needed it. It was a silly thing to do. So he stopped paying on his house insurance, and 4 days later, their house burned to the ground. And he's sober a long time in AA. She's in Al-Anon even longer. I mean, they lost everything, not only everything, but their way to make a living. They lost that too. And so we're all sending stuff, whoever can get in the car fastest, load up with whatever they might need. I'll never forget it, man. My friend, this woman's daughter whose house burned down, was the first to get to her. And she walked up to her mom and she said, "Oh, Mama, I'm so sorry. And, you know, I'm so sorry and for this tragedy. And how do you feel?" And her mother turned to her and said, "Jackie, I am an artist and a mother, and I'm still those things." Wow. Wow, just the examples of humility and kindness, man. And I have outside issues. They don't belong, you know, anywhere in all this, but I do have them. You know, they are, you could say, a power greater than me too. They come and go as they please. I don't control their intensity. I don't control the length of time they stay. They don't come often. They come so infrequently now that it takes me a day or two to say, "Oh, it's you. I forgot all about you." So, okay, buckle up. We're going in anyway, wheels up in 10, and that's depression, and I have an anxiety disorder. And again, I'm not going into it. I'm just saying I don't control them. I have green eyes too and fake blonde hair. It's no more important than that. But I knew you didn't know it was fake hair, but anyway. Lori knows. She's my secret hairdresser sometimes. But me too. It happened to me too. I was 20 years sober, man. And I was, one of them showed. I went to bed like I did and wait for it to pass. And God said to me, hey, you can help somebody. So I got my seriously fat behind out of bed because I can help somebody no matter what. And I remember being new and, stupid, all tatted up, showing, well, I gave them myself so they didn't last. They hurt like heck though. But anyway, showing body parts that don't belong on a stripper pole, just the best newcomer ever, gossiped about everybody, ran down all other meetings as one does. And man, but you guys were kind. God, you were so good to me. No matter what, man, no matter what. Because I know, when God said, hey, you can help somebody, it's true. I heard those words when I was new, happy, joyous, and free. I thought, that's it. That's it. That's the goal right there. And then at that point, I'd wake up every morning. Am I happy, joyous, and free? Answer, no. Spend the rest of the day obsessing about why not. I'm pretty sure that's not how it's supposed to go. And then I realized, after working these steps, that happy and joyous and freedom isn't the goal. Service is the goal. That's what we do. And then I remember making that decision, coming to that awareness and beginning on that path. And then I would look back like, oh, happy, oh, joy, and freedom. That's what that was. That's what that is, in service. I'm a historian, ridiculous. 0 jobs, just so don't even go there. But I'm so good at Trivial Pursuit, just in case. But there was this study that was released to us when I was in graduate school, and it was about what makes soldiers fight. You can see its implications, right? And it began in the midst of World War II and didn't end until some current conflict. So a long study is like the gold standard of research for historians by the US military. And the question was put to soldiers who had been through the muck of it, Battle of the Bulge, jungle fighting in Vietnam, those kinds of stories, those kind of soldiers. They would say to the soldier, they'd get him to safety, sit him down for the interview and say, what made you fight? Did you think about giving up? Soldiers would say, yeah, man. Yeah, I thought about giving up. One of them took off his boots in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, and freezing temperatures, took off his boots because he knew the cold would take him faster. But one by one, man, through every single conflict, different ages, different races, different creeds, different religions, different sexes, all soldiers. Then the question was put to them, well, okay, you decided to give up, then you didn't though. What made you fight? Every single soldier said this: I knew if I gave up, my fellows would suffer. That's the decision that we make. And we don't even know we make it. But it changes us too. When I was a little girl, I wandering, I don't have any emotion. I'm not, step work and the work that step work led me, I have 0 emotion. I'm just saying, in my mother's alcoholism, I was, a hungry little kid, wandering the neighborhood, just how it looks sometimes in alcoholism. That's all. And how I survived that was every single day of my childhood, I would knock on the back door of our Armenian neighbor's house, and I would pretend I was just coming by to visit her. And every single day of my childhood, she would pretend she had cooked too much food. So the seeds of service were planted before I even ever took my first drink. And that is the miracle of, you never know, man. I remembered that. I never forgot that. I just retired recently from a job as a community organizer in the elementary schools, where I found little kiddos who didn't have anyone showing up for them. And then I'd go in the community and make presentations or, beg basically for adults who I trained and followed their background checks to come into that kiddo's life and be with that kid till they graduated high school, man. A 10-year commitment I was asking of these people. And of course I mentored too. My first mentored girl was, lived in a homeless shelter and I started mentoring her when she was in second grade. Once a week, she'd have lunch with me and we'd play games, and talk until she went on to middle school, and where we continued. And I will say that the once a week that she had lunch with me was the only time in her entire elementary school years that anyone played with her at recess. And she was odd, and me too, man. I get that. I'm a little weird too. And one time PTA gave me a bunch of money. I mean, to us, $200 was like so much money. And I said, because our program was poor, but I said, oh my God, I got $200. What do you think I should do with it? What game should I buy for all the mentor pairs to play? And she says to me, she goes, well, with your age and weight, I wouldn't suggest Twister. Which is hilarious. And I just looked at her, and what I thought was, I am yours and you are mine. I am yours and you are mine. And since that time, that's my words to God. I am yours and you are mine. And see, the thing is, man, those outside issues, life shows up. As my sponsor, Paula, said, life's in session, man. We don't get a special pass. It's in session. Sometimes it's hard and dark and rough, man. But God gives me the grace. God gives me the grace. I pay my AA insurance policy as all those old timers when I was new. We're talking about insurance. That's inappropriate. Outside issue. But what they meant was do the work, man. So when life shows, you've got the foundation. You can face it, man. With grace and dignity, messy grace sometimes, broken dignity, but still dignity, still grace, because bystanders are watching. But I say to God, I'm yours and you're mine. What are we going to do today? And I remind myself of my primary purpose. I mean, it's a primary, it says. It means primary, to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, primary. And so that's the question. I put a lot of that stuff through my filters for any action that I have a question about. My intuition's giving me some kind of other, zing or whatever, is I run it through the serenity prayer, and I run it through, does this fulfill my primary purpose? So there's times, not many really anymore, but that I think other meetings are, well, I don't really think that about any meeting, but I used to, that are like not good or people shouldn't go. And I used to voice that, which is deadly. And then worse, man, gossip is deadly, man. And don't be telling other people's defects, even if they're real or invented in your freaking head. You are now ruining that person's chances to give service. And what if that is the person that is meant to save someone's life? You have just trashed that by gossiping. My sponsor says gossip is killing Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'd say it is some dangerous stuff. My favorite part of what I consider the 12-step isn't even in the 12-step in the big book. It's in the family afterward. And it starts with this word, cling. It says, cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have. I remember first hearing that and saying, excuse me, my dark past? Yeah, man. Because you never know. I mean, why was I able to hang with that, weirdo girl I mentored? Because I'm weird too, because I got a dark past too, because I was poor and hungry too, because nobody liked me either, Shoulder to shoulder, man, eyeball to eyeball, knee to knee. And that's how we go. And we're lucky we get to make friendships in here, deep and abiding friendships. And something that happened just recently is, many of you know my two older sons drink like we drank, and it's not going well. And the oldest one, who also has a mental health disorder, reached out to me. And he said, I've had it. I need help. And I'm primed and ready. So I'm okay. Because I kept the bridge clear and free. I didn't text him what he should do, or how he makes me feel, or none of that. I just asked him if he watched a Netflix show. It's really good. He might like it. I asked him if he wanted to meet for his favorite Mexican food. Just light and tight, just keep it free and easy. And because he knows I'm sober, he knows. And so he reached out, and funny thing, man, it was in March, and I had 3 conferences in a row to fly out to. And the first one of those was in the Ozark Mountains. And I live in, it's not really a small town, but we have one airport with one airline, So I was supposed to fly out Friday morning. Thursday in the middle of the night, my flight got canceled. And because it's a small town, there are no more flights. And so I thought, well, screw it, I'll drive. It's just like 6.5 hours away. So what? And Thursday night, that's when my son reached out to me and said, I need help. And so I picked him up. We're driving around. He goes, I can't go back to my apartment or I'll drink and use again. I said, weird thing. My flight got canceled. I got to drive to a conference. Do you want to go with me? And he said, yes. What is happening? So we're driving, and he's talking, and I'm nodding. And he feels like he wants to go to treatment. I don't have an opinion on that. And if that's where he wants to go, I'll help him get there. I'll meet him where he's at. Okay. So we're on the phone, and he's poor. He has no insurance, and he's 30 years old. And the treatment centers that were free said he has to detox 5 to 7 days before we'll take him. And he's on day 1 with me. And I'm like, oh my God. And and I'm driving to a conference where I have to be of service. So, I'm like, is this ridiculous? I'm in the middle of nowhere, and with a man who is now going, he's detoxing. And I just kept buying, Tootsie Rolls and Gatorade. To do, but I was calling friends too, like, what do I do? I wasn't calling because he could hear, hey, what do I give him? What do I do? And so he detoxed in the Ozark Mountains while I spoke at a conference, and it seemed to work just fine. And I told the cop, hey, come here, I got to tell you something. And it's all right. And so we're leaving Sunday morning, and we have 2 more days for him to detox before any bed will take him. And we got to turn on the car and drive back to Illinois where I live. And he's starting to feel better. Remember, he's feeling better. He overreacted. I'm like, oh man, I'm driving him back to his doom, I'm a mom. And I get a text before I'd even turned on the car that my sponsor's husband at hospice had put him on morphine in Jacksonville, Florida. And we all know the clock is ticking. And then he'd been in ill health for a long time. And I, love my sponsor a lot and help her a lot. We all do. And, so I had to get to my sponsor and try to get to Dave before he passed, because I loved him too. But there's my son, and there's nothing more important than that. And I don't even know what made me ask it, but I said, honey, instead of driving home, can we leave from here? Will you drive with me? Will you help me? I said, will you help me drive to Jacksonville, Florida? He said, yes. And we didn't make it in time, but I will say this, man, because you never know, that my lovely sponsor's lovely husband, Dave Pistol, did not deserve the death that he had. He did not deserve the demise and the dementia and the embarrassment. But I will say that Dave Pistol's last act was to save my son. Now, do I think God caused Dave to die? No, I don't. My God doesn't, the God I choose doesn't do that. But God is in charge of time and love, and there are many mysteries I do not know. And that we were in a place, my son and I, that we could pick up the mantle that God tossed our way. That Dave went out when he went out. He had a lot of things wrong with him, but he really died of nothing. He had a lot wrong, like I said, but I don't know, but that's how that worked. And my son did not make it. He got to 70 days and decided he wasn't an alcoholic. But I'm telling you, nobody has had a better introduction to the love and magnitude of Alcoholics Anonymous than has that boy, just like I did in my very first meeting when I was 14 years old. And I even spend any time talking about my boys. I know it's not my story to tell. I know. But I do tell it because you never know. Because I do know that God works in weird connections and coincidences and ironies and chances and last chances and second chances and no chances. Got it. Thank you. And who knows? But one of you may be the one standing at the back door of a room of Alcoholics Anonymous to say, welcome to my babies. I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm going to end a little early. When I was about 4 years sober, I was in undergrad, maybe 21 years old or something. And my sister and I decided to drive in my crappy college car all the way from Nebraska to Washington, D.C. 2 days before Christmas Eve with my baby niece. And my sister loves shortcuts. So we're in like nowhere, Iowa. And just after midnight, so now it's 1 day before Christmas Eve, and my car just dies, just stops. And there are no lights, there's no cities, there's no signs to where a town is, there's no lights I can see to walk to a farmhouse, and we're in danger, it's 0 degrees. So I was gonna get out of the car and just guess where to start looking for help. And just at that point, these little headlights come over a hill. And my sister, who's relatively stable, said, oh, good help. I said, oh no, axe murderer. And it was this farmer. Those guys know everything. And he says, what's wrong? We're like, we don't know. The engine just stopped. And I happen to have duct tape and a wire coat hanger in my car, like I was going to kidnap somebody. I don't know why. Why did I have those things? Anyway, he fixed my engine with those things. So we're, getting ready to get back in the car and go. He's getting ready to get back in the truck. We're like, we want to pay you. And he goes, no, don't worry about it. We're like, you actually saved our lives and we want to pay you. And here's what he said, take it as a present from him. So if this all sounds ridiculous to you, like we will get it, but something's wrong with you that you can't, that there's something different about you that you can't get this. Me too. I understand. So just say the sacred maybe and take it all as a present from him. Thank you.
Let's welcome our fourth and final speaker tonight, and the final speaker of this STEP series, Juanita Yu from New Mexico, who will be sharing her experience with the 12th step from the Al-Anon perspective. Juanita?
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Juanita, and I'm a very grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-Anon. Having had Am I on? Can you hear me? Okay, thanks. My name is Juanita. I'm a very grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-Anon. Glad to be on here. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I came into my very first meeting of Al-Anon on July 2nd of 1986. And you talk about having an attitude. I did not show up at my first meeting desperate at all. I was not desperate. You all were desperate. You all were, I felt sorry for you. I was not desperate. And I was there simply and only because my husband was at a treatment center and they said to me, he cannot go home to an old idea. Now, I had no idea what that meant. It sounded rather ominous. I did know that I did not want to go to the third family day and not be able to say I'd gone to an Al-Anon meeting, because what would they think of me? They would think I didn't care, but they really would think I didn't care about my husband. So I thought, well, I better get going. So I went to this meeting, and what I heard was some talk about God, and I had no desire for God. I grew up Catholic and married in the Catholic Church, got divorced. That's when I left. I mean, I just left the Catholic Church, and I wanted nothing to do with religion. I wanted to have nothing to do with God. I wanted to have nothing to do with anything having to do with anything that was remotely about God, about spirituality, about spirit or anything. As far as I was concerned, there was no such thing. And so here I am at this meeting, and they're talking about this stuff, and I want to crawl under the table. And when I read those 12 steps, they made no sense to me at all. I just couldn't get them. It's like, what are they even talking about? It was as if it was Greek. And I kept going, and I kept going because my husband loved the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, loved AA. And I was afraid that if I didn't go to Al-Anon, that I'd lose him. Well, now that he's sober, I didn't want to lose him, you know. Now that he's sober, I'll be damned if anybody else was going to get him, right? So I'm going to go to meetings of Al-Anon and at least get this stuff. And I had no intentions of getting recovery because I had no idea what recovery was. What I wanted to get was the ability to sound like I knew what I was talking about. And I did that. I went to open meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to 4 or 5 meetings of Al-Anon a week, to where I could say a lot of great stuff. Let me tell you, I sounded good. I sounded really good. And after a year, year and a half, you know, I had people coming up to me and asking me if I'd sponsor them. And of course. Now, keep in mind, I didn't have a sponsor. Now, you ought to be scared to death by that. I did not have a sponsor. You ought to be shaking in your shoes to hear that. Because I'm going to help people. Help them with what? You know, it says we tried to carry this message. What message do I have? I did not have a message. I had a mess of a message, not a solid message of recovery. I had a mess of a message. And if you had asked me, have you worked those 12 steps? I would have said, absolutely, absolutely. Of course I've worked those 12 steps. I've read those 12 steps off the wall. How many times? Every meeting, and we've heard them every meeting at the beginning. Of course I've worked those 12 steps. My heavens. Why? How could you even ask me? And the truth was, of course I hadn't. I had not worked those 12 steps in any way whatsoever, at all. All I did was sounded like a parrot. I just repeated words and slogans that I'd heard at the Al-Anon meetings, at open AA meetings, and I sounded good. I really did. I sounded good. If you had watched me when I left the meeting, you would have said, who is this person? Because I was not the same woman once I walked out those rooms. I was not the same woman because I had nothing. I had nothing. All I had was blah, 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 blah. Repeat everything that I'd heard. That's all I had. And then about 2 years in the program, I reached what I still call, where I was blessed with the gift of desperation. I became desperate, sitting in these Al-Anon rooms week after week after week after week. You see, I didn't have to consider the first step when I got in here. My husband was sober. Am I powerless over alcohol? Is my life unmatched? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I didn't have to think about it. He was sober. I'd always said, if he just got clean and sober, I'd be fine. My life would be great. He's got 2 years clean and sober. And I'll tell you, I am far from okay. I'm far from okay. Guess who causes the chaos and the crisis at home? It's not him. It's me. It's me. And that one Sunday afternoon, I sat down and I wrote some stuff, some inventory, because I'd been to open AA meetings. We didn't talk much about steps that I remember, or sponsorship when I came in. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. If they did, I didn't hear it because I'm not interested in that. You need my help. I don't need your help. Boy, did I have it wrong, right? So I wrote down this inventory, and I asked a woman a few days later at a meeting if she would, what I was going to ask her was, will you listen to this fifth step? What came out was, will you sponsor me? And of course, I can't admit that I made a mistake, right? And she said, well, let's talk. Long story short, she started taking me through the 12 steps. She started taking me through the 12 steps. And I began to change. I began to change. Now, when I got to the 7th step with her, she said, I can't take you any further. I'm making a long story short. She says, I can't take you any further. She says, I've only gone as far as the 7th step. She says, I suggest you find somebody else. I said, okay. And I said, okay, without intending that to happen. I just kept showing up at her house. And then finally, it's like she just fired me. She says, you don't show up next week. Anyway, so what happened was this, because it says we practice these principles in all our affairs. And it says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. Now, I don't get to have that spiritual awakening going up through step 7. I don't get to have that spiritual awakening until I've done all those steps. And I've loved listening to you guys. You guys have done a fabulous job with step 11 and step 12. Thank you. Beautiful. I've loved it. What happened to me at about 4 or 5 years in the program was I nearly killed my family. My husband was driving and I grabbed hold of that steering wheel because I was so angry with him because he was not paying attention to what I said and he wasn't doing what we agreed on. Now, I suffer from the insanity of believing, how do I want to say this? That I suffer from the delusion that I can manage my life. I suffer from the delusion that I can manage my life. So I don't have a sponsor. It's been a while that I haven't had a sponsor. I'm active in service. I'm sponsoring people. I'm going to meetings. But I don't have anybody I'm holding myself accountable to. That's dangerous. And I nearly killed my family. And my daughter's crying in the back seat. My husband's yelling, going, what is wrong with you? And I don't have an answer. Next morning, I sat in prayer and meditation. Because whether or not you've gotten to step 11, you can pray and meditate at any point coming into this program. How about that? We can begin praying and meditating at any point. So I sat there, and I only sat there for one reason, because I was absolutely baffled by my behavior. And I said, God, and when I'll tell you that when I pray, and I mean the prayer with every fiber of my being, and I ask, I get my answer. And what I got when I said, God, what is wrong with me? What happened yesterday? This is what I got. It wasn't in words. I got this though. And it was this: you quit working those steps. And it was like, oh my God, they always said, how many times had I gone to open AA meetings and they said, you know, your disease is in the parking lot doing push-ups. How many times had I heard that? You know, what I've come to finally realize is that the family disease of alcoholism is every bit as deadly for the family member as it is for the alcoholic. How many times did I put my kids and myself in a car that's being driven by a drunk person? How many times? Countless times. How many times did I send my kids off with my husband, knowing full well that if he might not be drunk right now, but by God, by the time he got home with those kids, he'd be drunk. And this is what went in my head. If anything happens to the kids or happens to him, then he'll see how bad he is. Who do I think is bad? Who do I think is in trouble? Who do I think is sick? And I'm busy looking at him, and never once do I look at myself. Never once. What was wrong with me? The family disease of alcoholism is absolutely fatal. Fatal for the family member. And it was nearly fatal for my husband, because I came close to killing him. I came close to drowning him in the bathtub. Seconds and inches. Norm Alpe, longtime member of Alcoholics Anonymous, used to say seconds and inches, seconds and inches. And it was seconds and inches. So I don't get to have this spiritual awakening. So what happened was I found another woman to sponsor me. And she's been my sponsor for over 30 years now. And she's a member of Al-Anon, but she's primarily a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. 50 years of sobriety. Just celebrated this month on the 13th, 50 years of continuous sobriety. And she continues to be my sponsor. You know why? One reason, a lot of reasons, I love her. But the biggest reason, she continues to enlarge and expand and deepen her relationship with God. I never wanted God, right? We started finishing those 12 steps, and I had what was guaranteed to me, that spiritual awakening as the result of those steps. As the result of those steps. Now, I don't get to keep it. And I don't on a daily basis keep being awake. I fall asleep continuously. And the only way I know I've fallen asleep is because I wake up and I go, what the heck did I just do? What the heck did I just say? How could I do that? How could I hurt them like that? And I go, you fell asleep. One more time. One more time, you fell asleep. I think step 10, 11, and 12 are so important. Step 10 tells me I have to keep watching, paying attention. Am I awake? What's my behavior like? It lets me know if I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs. If I'm not being the woman that God would have me be, and which I found out in my 4th step, what God would have me be is this. God would have me be trusting, loving, honest, accepting, authentic, courageous, open, compassionate, curious, grateful, vulnerable, communicative. If I'm not being those things, how can I practice these principles in all my affairs? There's no way. There's no way. And I have to be spiritually awake, which means I better pray and meditate, just like what you heard. Because if I'm not spiritually awake, I'm going to cause havoc. I'm not going to carry a message of depth and weight. I am going to carry a message of a mess. The old timers used to say, they might not hear what you're saying, but by God, you're a demonstration by what you do. How am I behaving? My sponsor tells me repeatedly over and over again, your job is to demonstrate God's love, God's power, and God's way of life. Am I demonstrating that? Am I demonstrating that as I walk through my day, as I encounter people, as I say hi to people? Or am I oblivious? Because the truth is, when I got here, I couldn't have given 2 cents for you guys. I didn't have time for you. I was dismissive of you. If you were not my kids, you were not my husband, my parents, my family, I couldn't be bothered. There wasn't enough love. There wasn't enough love. There wasn't enough energy in me. There wasn't enough time to deal with you all. My first sponsor used to say, you think there's not enough time, there's not enough love, and there's not enough money. And I'd be like, you're right. And she says, you know what that means? She says, that means there's not enough God. Oh my God. She nailed it from the very beginning. She nailed it from the very beginning. There was never enough God in my life. I keep doing these steps over and over and over again. Because if I don't deepen my relationship with God. You see, the more I know of myself and who I am and who I am not, I am better able to carry a message. Because if I don't know me, how can I tell you who I am? I can't be of help. The 10 step says it's my job to be effective. Am I effective? Am I effective today? It's so funny. Today I got a phone call from I got 2 texts this morning from people, and they were like, can I give your message? Can I give your phone number to these people? And I'm like, yeah, you can give it. I mean, do I want to give it? No, I don't want to give my phone number. I don't want to get calls. I don't want to hear from you. I want to live my life. I want to be like doing what I want to do. I want to like knit. I want to garden. I want to read. I want to watch my favorite series on TV because I got to finish it. I got to find out what happened to these people I now feel like are my friends, right? I don't want to take the call. But what happens? I say, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course you can. And then I get a call. And I get a call from this woman whose daughter's life is on the line. And she goes, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh my God. My heart breaks for them. And you see, I don't want to pick up the phone and I don't want to take these calls because you've done something to me. You guys have done something to me. And it's not just the Al-Anons, it's also the members of Alcoholics Anonymous. You have screwed with my heart. You have entered my heart and opened it in such a way that I have come to absolutely love and adore you. I didn't want that. I don't want that. My husband and I were just in the UK. We were in England and Scotland and Ireland for 5 weeks. And I've been doing this meeting on Sunday mornings with this group of women from those areas. Primarily, they're from there. And I made a point. I asked my husband, I said, do you think we can go to all these places where they're at? I'd really kind of like to visit them. And he looked at me and says, of course. He said, why would you even ask? Of course we're going to go there. And I got a chance to see face to face these women in Scotland and Ireland, one that I've known for a long time in London, and go to lunch with them and hang out with them and visit with them. And I said to my husband every time after we did that, I said, you know what? Because I was crying. And I said, I love these women so much. I can't stand it. Sometimes I feel the love to such a degree that I feel like I've got to shut the door on it because it's so powerful. It's so overwhelming. You all have opened up my heart. And it's because I know you've opened me up to God, to the power of God. That's it. That's all we got. We got nothing but God here. I better deepen my relationship with God. Because if I don't expand and enlarge my spiritual life, I will fall asleep again, over and over. So I try to carry this message. I don't know what somebody will do with this message. I have no idea. I do my best to carry it though. And as a result of sharing this stuff, which is what message? What message do we carry? Do you guys know the message that we carry? For me, I'll tell you what message that I'm told I have to carry. That's the message of how we recover by using these 12 steps. That's the message. The message that I carry to other people is how I have recovered using those 12 steps so that I have awakened, so I know me so that I can better help you. So I have that message of depth and weight. And am I practicing these principles in all my affairs? It must have been about 17 years ago. It was Christmas Eve. And here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, on Christmas Eve, they close this one street where all the galleries are. And they do what we call farolitos, which is a paper bag that has a sand and a candle that's in there. And they light up. And this street is literally covered, not just the streets, the rooftops, the walls, the windowsills, everything that you can put one of these paper bags and with the candle in it and they light it is covered by these things. and there's bonfires. And I mean, it's just great. It's the most beautiful thing, you know, at Christmas time. And we were going to go and we're going to meet some of the family and some friends there and walk with them. It's called the Canyon Road Walk. And we're out of our driveway and my phone rings. And it's this one gal that I sponsored, young girl. She was probably about, I don't know, maybe 26 at the time. And her mother was very ill. Her mother had Huntington's disease. And she said, I'm here with my mom. They said that this is it. And I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And, you know, it's like, I want to get off the phone because I want to go hang out and do this Canyon Road Walk. And I asked her, do you want me to come up? And she says, yeah, please. And I turned to Tom and I said, Tom, I said, are you okay if we go up? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. And so we went up there and we were with her mom and her, and we were there for her mother's death. It was the first time I had the blessing to be with someone, and that was not a family relative. And we walked through the entire evening. And I can't remember when we get home, but later on, I remember my husband called his sponsor and he told him what we were doing. And he said to his sponsor, he says, I don't want to do this. I didn't sign up for this. And his sponsor said this. He said, that's exactly what we do. He says, that's exactly what we sign up for. That's how we practice these principles in all our affairs. We show up for people and we demonstrate the power of God. I didn't have it in me to do it. God gave me that power. Of myself, I can't do this at all. We practice these principles. I practice these principles in all my affairs, and I fail constantly. I'm always blowing it. I'm always looking back going, oh man, you missed that opportunity. But more and more, I do better. I do better more and more. Because you see, it's practicing these principles in all my affairs, not just in the program, not just with Al-Anons, not just with AAs. My house is open all the time. We've always got program people coming in and out. And one of the things that they often say is this: your home feels so safe. It feels so cozy. It is so welcoming. And what's funny is that my dad for Christmas one year gave me this little plaque. It was probably like a $2.50 little plaque, you know. And he gave it to me and he says, I gave you this, he says, because it really reminds me of you. And this is you and your house. Thank you. And it was something of like, this is a home where everybody can walk in and be safe and be welcome and be loved and feel the love. Because of you guys, my dad saw me. My dad knew me. He was able, and my dad was the first alcoholic in my life. And because of you and the 12 steps and making amends, my relationship with my dad changed to the degree that I sat with him and walked with him in his last year of his life. Those are the gifts you guys gave us. Those are practicing these principles in all our affairs. My relationship with my kids, all of my kids have changed. While I've been on with you, I've been watching, because I'm on my phone, I've been watching these texts from my kids scroll through and through about, oh my God, we're coming to visit you. We're doing this. We're coming to visit you. I mean, they are so transformed. My oldest daughter said this to me a year or two ago. She said, I told her I was going to go have lunch with her son, who was then about 22. And she says, Mom, just do me one favor. I said, okay, honey, what if I can, what is it? And she says, would you please not tell him that you have told me all these things that I've told him, because he thinks I'm brilliant. And they're only things that I've gotten from you. And everything that I've told her are things that I've gotten from you guys. Be you members of Al-Anon or be you members of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, if I had only listened to the members of Al-Anon, I would have missed 50% of what was available to me for my healing, for my recovery, for my ability to change. I am so grateful. So grateful. So I keep doing these steps because I'm greedy. I want more of what God has to offer. I love God. And I remember the day that I sat in my sunroom after prayer and meditation, all of a sudden what came out of my mouth was, God, I love you. And I was like, what? That came out of my mouth? Couldn't believe it. Those 12 steps, I get the spiritual awakening only when I take those 12 steps and I repeat it because I want a deeper awakening. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you.
Rodney?
Hey, good evening, family. My name is Rodney. I'm a grateful arrested alcoholic. And thank you to all of our speakers this evening. Again, please keep in mind we're looking for questions. If you are rendering a question, a very quick thank you to the speaker is okay, but let's try to get as many questions as possible and be mindful of the time. To raise your hand so that you can be recognized for a question. If you're on your computer, laptop, the reactions tab, if you hit that at the bottom of your screen. If you're on your phone or a laptop or mobile device, usually if at the top, you see the 3 dots, more, and it should give you an option to raise your hand for questions. So if, with no further ado, if we can get some hands and we'll begin getting the questions for our speakers. Let's see, we've got one from John. John, could you unmute?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rodney. You want me to just say my question now?
You can say your question. You got it.
My name is John. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I used to be a hateful alcoholic, and grateful that I was here to hear all of you share tonight. My friend Ali sent me these links a couple weeks ago, and what a blessing it is to hear such a beautiful message. So thank you. My question is, how do you get the concept of the power of prayer and the connection to God across to newcomers without scaring the crap out of them? That's my question. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Who wants to take a stab at that? Go ahead, Lori.
That's a really good question, actually. And it's not an easy one either. I think some of this just comes naturally as you work these steps. I really think a lot of it just comes naturally, because I'm sure that the other ladies that are on this tonight can also have, I'm sure we all have had sponsees that have not just been gung-ho on a higher power when they got here. That was just like, oh, no problem. Let's just go with God. I mean, that's usually not our experiences here. So, I think again, I believe that these steps are in order and they're in divine order. And when you get to step 3, you're just saying, do you believe there's something bigger than you? And if they say, I don't know, maybe, that's good enough. I mean, that's good enough. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I've had girls and I'd say, well, do you believe that I believe? And they'd say, yeah, I believe you believe. And I'd say, okay, well, can you go with that? And they go, yeah. And so I think it just comes as a natural. By the time you get to step 11 and 12, you've already got some sort of idea of who God is, or your higher power is. By the time you get through to the step 11, I've never had a sponsee that was balking at step 11 because they didn't have a concept of God yet. I mean, they've got it by then. They may not fully understand God or a higher power, but I don't think any of us do. But by the time that we get to 11, all I ask them to do is just act like God is a friend, that you're somebody you just met or somebody you don't know that well, and just develop that relationship. Start treating that. We had a lady who was having trouble with it. This may help. And they said, and her sponsor told her, I want you to imagine that you take God with you and you talk to him all the time. So she literally would go out to her car and open the door and say, okay, God, get in, and shut the door, and then go around, and she would take him everywhere that she went. And one time she was somewhere, I can't remember where she was, and she left and she goes, oh my God, I forgot God, and went back and opened the door and let it. I mean, that sounds silly, but it was a practice that got them okay with that there was somebody else with them. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to know that there's somebody with you at all times that you can rely on, and that you can develop a relationship with. So, sometimes that little silly exercise really does work. She said that one time she left him up in a tree and she had to go up and get him because she'd forgotten him. And so, and listen, sometimes I forget God too. I sometimes still think that I'm back in charge again. And before I'm even halfway through, I'm running the show again. And then I go, why is everything so bad? And then I go, oh yeah, I didn't ask for God's help with any of this. It's like, I'll give this example. I always get these girls that call me and I say girls, they're usually as old as I am sometimes, but anyway, but they will say to me, I just really think that God, wouldn't want me to break up with this or get a divorce from this guy, because I just don't think that that's God's will. And I'd say, did you ask if it was God's will before you married him? Because I don't believe anybody was asking God about that then. And so, we don't get to pick and choose when God's in charge. God's always in charge. It's if we allow him to work and we stay out of the way. So I think, again, to answer your question, I really think that it's just a natural progression by the time that we get to 11, that we just start growing that relationship. We just start, practicing, talking, and trying to listen to our higher power, whatever that is, and however that comes about. And again, everybody has different ways to do that. So Paula, Juanita, you guys got anything to add to that?
Yeah, if I may. Yeah, thanks. I don't think I can give that to anybody. I really don't think I can give it. What I've watched is that they slowly come to believe by their experiences of bringing God into situations like Lori was talking about. It was I guess I'll give you my experience was that my sponsors didn't give it to me. They started taking me through these steps, and I watched people's lives change. People who said they didn't believe in God, and all of a sudden they're believing in God, and they're telling these God stories. And at first, when I heard them, I rolled my eyes. And I think I heard enough of those God stories, God working in their lives, there was a little crack in my shell, just a little crack in my shell. And that God doesn't need much of a crack to get in. I mean, God gets in through the teeniest little, hairline, if that much. And I started having these experiences of God. Because my sponsor would say, pray. And it's like, okay, you don't believe, just pray. Doesn't matter, just pray. And I would pray and something would happen. And I remember one time I had this experience. I had forgotten my purse at home, and I was at work. It's a long time ago. And I called my husband. I said, would you bring my purse? Now, I wasn't good at communication in those days, right? So I said, would you bring my purse? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. What I wanted him to do was, before he went to work, I wanted him to bring my purse because I needed my purse. Well, I waited a while and he didn't show up. And I'm getting furious. I'm getting so angry. And I get in my car. Didn't matter if I didn't have my driver's license with me. I was furious, and I was going to give him a piece of my mind and tell him what I thought. And he said he'd bring it, and he wasn't bringing it. So I'm going to show you, buddy. And I was really going to tear him up. And on my way, I had this thought, that might not be the right little Al-Anon program thing to do. And I thought, oh, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it. And it was like, okay, she says, pray to God. Okay, here's the prayer, God. The prayer is this. I am going to get on him, and I'm going to tell him exactly what I think and how I feel and how he let me down, and I'm going to let him have it. If it's not the right thing to do, then here's the deal. If you don't want me to do that, because I'm going to do it, then you're going to have to make sure I don't do it. I get to where his job is, and there's his truck. And to make matters worse, the car door's open. It's unlocked, and my purse is sitting right in the front seat. If you hadn't thought I was mad to begin with, when I saw that, I mean, smoke's coming out. And I got my purse. And I started looking for him. I couldn't find him. And all of a sudden, I'm looking around for him. It's not a big job, right? And I couldn't find him. And I just started to laugh. And I thought, oh, I get it. I get it. You don't want me to do this. Okay, I get it. All right. So I just got in my car and went back to work, And it's by having those little experiences that I came to believe that there was a power, whatever that power was. And I've watched people little by slow come to that, whatever they call that power. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Juanita. I don't see any additional questions. I don't know, Paula, did you want to respond to that at all? And if not,
I'll just say this real quick, that when I was driving with my son, when he was considering joining us, he said at one point, if you think I am ever going to say that God word or believe in a God, you got another thing coming. And I was able to not argue with him, to not push my beliefs on him. I was able to say, you are in luck. You have come to the right place. And just share my experience instead of what it should be, what he should be. And there's no arguing with that. It's just the truth.
thank you. All right, I've got a question for you all. So we're at steps 11 and 12. We start off with step 1, talking about being powerless. Why are we still talking about being powerless in step 11 and 12?
I think because as we have gone through these steps, we now have proof of who the power is. That's why. And we are reminders. I don't have new spiritual experiences. I need to be spiritually reminded. Because I live in the 3rd dimension. I don't think I'm a spirit living there trying to work it out here. I think I live right here in the 3rd dimension.
For me, because I'm more and more awake, I see where I am separating still from God as I go about my day in certain situations. So, and I'm separating from God because I think I don't even know these places are in my life or that they exist, that I'm not connected. And there's places where I think, I got this. I don't need God. And it's not even that I am conscious of it. It's a completely unconscious thing. There's no conscious thought of it. I just go about my day, happy-go-lucky. And then I look back and I'm going, whoa, no wonder it blew up in my face, or no wonder this happened. And it's in those moments realizing that I was trying to manage, even though I didn't think I was trying to manage, that I didn't have any power in it. I'm never far from the first step, ever. The first step is always right there waiting for me. I can't tell you how many things I put through the 12 steps, including jealousy. Jealousy is a powerful emotion. I couldn't get rid of it. I finally put it through the steps. Do you believe it's gone? There are always areas where I think I got it, and they're unconscious because I'm not awake.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands, so I'm going to make a final call for questions. Going once. Going twice. Well, thank you, ladies, for a wonderful representation of steps 11 and 12. I will now turn the workshop over to our chairperson, Anna. And again, thank you for letting me be of service and participating in my sobriety.
Thank you, Rodney, also for your service. On behalf of the Fellowship of the Spirit Toronto STEP Workshop Series, we would like to extend a warm appreciation to Amy, Lori, Paula, and Juanita for taking us on a powerful journey through steps 11 and 12 tonight. Thank you. We would once again like to thank all our speakers who joined us to take us all through the 12 step these past 4 weeks. A special note of gratitude to all of you who joined us for some of the or all of these series. It has been wonderful to be here together. We would like to also thank all those who helped put this meeting together, our readers, monitors, and all who participated by asking questions of our speakers. We look forward to seeing you all again on the broad highway. Thank you for letting me be of service. After a moment of silence and prayer for those still sick and suffering in and out of these rooms, please remain muted as I close out with the St. Francis prayer. The St. Francis prayer. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Rodney.